Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome to stately Vaughan Manor. And Happy New Year. I was trying to figure out what I should do for the new year, and I thought maybe I'll do a dopey top 10 list. And then I thought, nah, I'll do a top 100 list. Why not? So this is an updated list of my favorite books of all time. I really worked on this list to make it as honest as I could, which meant I had to revise some of my previous lists and reorder things. You know how it goes. So this is my most recent, up-to-date, and as honest as I could make it list of my favorite 100 books of all time. This has nothing to do with literary merit, as you will see as the list goes on, but let's go ahead and start my top 100 list, going from 100 to 1, as we do on these top 100 lists. Number 100, Journal of the Gun Years by Richard Matheson. Great writer and a really, really dark Western. I really like this book a lot. Brings us to 99, Darkness Weaves by Carl Edward Wagner. Going from a really dark Western to a really dark fantasy. This could be the darkest of Carl Edward Wagner's King novels, and that's really saying something. 98, Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa. The classic Japanese historical novel. It's really, really good. Number 97, The Land That Time Forgot by Edgar Rice Burroughs. One of my favorite of Edgar Rice Burroughs' novels. Lost World novel full of dinosaurs, of course, and some other strange critters. It's good stuff. Number 96, The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. What can I say? It's Edgar Allan Poe. Of course it's fantastic. Number 95, The Robots of Dawn by Isaac Asimov. I really like Isaac Asimov's robot novels a lot, and I really like this book. This is just one of my favorites of his. Number 94, The Moving Target by Ross Mcdonald. This is the first of the Lou Archer series, and it starts off really, really well, this series. I like this book an awful lot. Number 93, The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. Man, do these stories pack a punch. These are good stories. Number 92, Elric by Michael Moorcock. I'm kind of cheating here because I'm saying that all the Elric books are just one book, but you know, they've been republished in the stories in different orders all the time. So I'm just going to say the whole saga is one book. Why not? I can cheat. Number 91, Planet of the Apes by Pierre Boulle. A lot different from the movie, but really, really good. This is a good book. It should be read more often than it is. Number 90, The Campaigns of Alexander by Arrian, the classic Greek historian Arrian. This is the source, the primary source for a lot of those biographies of Alexander the Great, which come out every 5 minutes. Maybe you should just read this book. Number 89, The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. Again, I'm going to say this trilogy is all one book because it does tell one complete story with really well. Great, great fantasy series. Number 88, Salem's Lot by Stephen King, the classic vampire novel from Stephen King. It's really good. It's one of my favorites. Number 87, Time and the Gods by Lord Dunsany. Just classic, beautiful fantasy from Lord Dunsany. Number 86, The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle. The classic Lost World novels with dinosaurs, of course. Number 85, Legend by David Gemmell. This wonderful fantasy novel, hard-hitting macho fantasy novel with Druss, the legend. Just read it for the first time this year, and boy, did I like it a lot. Number 84, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's not rubbish, it's awesome! Number 83, Hellenica by Xenophon, the classic history by Xenophon. Xenophon, he might not be the most accurate of ancient historians, but he's an awful compelling writer. Number 82, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is one of his very best, A Tale of Two Cities. It's his most classic of classic novels, and it deservedly so. It's a wonderful book. Number 81, Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erickson. Man, is this a great fantasy novel. great literature as well as being a great fantasy novel. It's excellent. Number 80, Bloodstone by Carl Edward Wagner. This could be my favorite of the Kane novels from Carl Edward Wagner, and it's also the first one, I believe. Number 79, Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. Earth Abides. The end of the world is coming in Berkeley in the 50s. It's awesome. Number 78, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Man, if you haven't read that book, run out and get that book. It's great. Number 77, The Histories, also known as The Rise of the Roman Empire by the ancient Greek historian Polybius. It's really, really good, guys. It's compelling stuff. Number 76, Allan Quatermain by H. Rider Haggard. Chronologically, as far as the stories go, this is the last of the Quatermain novels. A really, really excellent finish to that series. Number 75, The House on the Borderland by William Hope Hodgson. This is a weird, weird horror book. It's got giant pig monsters. Man, what more do you need? Number 74, Egypt, Greece, and Rome by Charles Freeman. In my opinion, this is the best one-volume ancient history of the ancient Mediterranean, or history of the ancient Mediterranean that you can find. It's really excellent. Number 73, Hell House by Richard Matheson. The haunted house story to end all haunted house stories. It didn't end them, but boy, is this a good book. Number 72, David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. He put a lot of himself in this book, and boy, does it show. Number 71, Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Really, really good book, man. Excellent tale of revenge. Good stuff. Number 70, Solomon Kane by the greatest pulp writer of all time, Robert E. Howard. That's the book of the great Puritan adventurer. It's excellent stuff. Number 69, Why Not You and I by Carl Edward Wagner. This is a dynamite collection of horror stories. Kind of hard to find, though. Number 68, Night Shift by Stephen King. Talk about some dynamite stories. This is Stephen King at his very best. Excellent short fiction from Stephen King. Number 67, History of Rome by Livy. This guy could write a history. This is really an entertaining history by the ancient Roman historian. Really compelling stuff. You should read that. Number 66, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Excellent, excellent novel. I believe this is his best work. The Grapes of Wrath. Number 65, The Death of Grass by John Christopher. A great science fiction novel of famine and the end of civilization. It's great stuff. Just read it for the first time this year, and boy, it was really good. Number 64, Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. The classic adventure novel of the Middle Ages. It's awesome. You should read Ivanhoe. Number 63, King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard. This was the first Allan Quatermain novel that came out. The first novel that came out in that series, and it is excellent. Classic stuff. Number 62, The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. It's good stuff, The Woman in White. It's probably his best novel. It's definitely his best novel. He could have just quit after this one. Number 61, The Best of Richard Matheson. This is Richard Matheson's best short fiction. Really, really good stuff. This is an excellent volume. Number 60, For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. My very favorite book from Ernest Hemingway. Really moving stuff and just brilliantly written. Number 59, The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler. Probably not his most perfect work. It has its flaws, but boy, it's a good one. It has a payoff, this book. Number 58, Dark Gods by T.E.D. Klein. This is a fantastic horror book, a collection of 4 novellas, and it's amazing. Good luck finding it, though. Number 57, Ancient Sorceries and Other Weird Stories by Algernon Blackwood. Just brilliant supernatural stories. He writes like nobody else, this guy. Number 56, The Island of Dr. Moreau. This is H.G. Wells' classic horror and science fiction story, and this one really will stay with you. Number 55, The Caves of Steel by Isaac Asimov. This is my favorite of his robot novels for so many reasons that I don't have time to go into right now, but I will when I talk about this novel later on this year. Number 54, At the Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs. His classic Lost World adventure, one of my favorite of his stories, his first of his inner world Paluster novels. Number 53, The Anabasis by Xenophon. This is also known as the Persian Expedition. Just talked about it recently. Great book. Number 52, The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. Killer plants, the end of the world, disaster. It's great, man. Check it out. Number 51, The Way Some People Die by Ross Mcdonald. Another classic Lou Archer detective novel. This one is really good. Number 50, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I love this book. I've actually found a couple people that didn't like this book. That I don't understand. It's a little bit crazy. This book is fantastic. Number 49, The Odyssey by Homer. His classic story, The Odyssey, The Wanderings of Odysseus. Excellent book. It's actually a really great read, that one. Number 48, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I love this. This is my favorite of the Bronte books. Excellent novel, Jane Eyre. Number 47, The Glass Key by Dashiell Hammett. This is one of Dashiell Hammett's best novels. It's a really great story of friendship and what you would do for a friend. Number 46, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, the classic prelude to The Lord of the Rings. Just read this recently and I loved it just as much now as I did when I was a kid. Number 45, The Return of Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is still one of my favorite of Edgar Rice Burroughs' books. Everything is in this book that you want in a Tarzan novel. Everything. Lost worlds, adventure, just everything. It's great. Return of Tarzan. Number 44, Appointment in Samara by John O'Hara. Classic novel of a guy that just ruins his own life and you just can't stop reading it. It's fantastic. Number 43, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. This is a book you gotta read. It lives up to its title, let me tell you. Number 42, Kull, Exile of Atlantis by Robert E. Howard. This is Robert E. Howard's classic stories of Kull and the lost world where he was the king of Eleusia. Great fantasy, and it has the story, The Shadow Kingdom, the first sword and sorcery story ever written. Number 41, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This book is so good, I can't even describe how good this book is. It's gripping stuff. Number 40, The Galton Case by Ross Mcdonald. This is one of his best, if not his best, Lou Archer novel. People have different opinions about this kind of thing, but this might be my personal favorite. Number 39, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. This is Ray Bradbury writing at his most beautiful. It's just a beautiful book. It's just the perfect science fiction book. It's just great. It's like a science fiction fantasy masterpiece. Number 38, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I really, really like this book. The more I think about it, the better I think it was. Number 37, The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The first and best of the classic alien invasion stories. This one packs a punch. Number 36, The Dark Eidolon and Other Fantasies by Clark Ashton Smith. There are a lot of Clark Ashton Smith's anthologies that I could recommend, and they're all good. This one, I think, is probably the most well-rounded, all-around well-rounded Clark Ashton Smith anthology, in that it has his writing in all its different aspects. It's a really good collection of this great writer. Number 35, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. Alexandre Dumas. It's The Three Musketeers. It's amazing. Fantastic adventure. Good stuff. Number 34, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Classic, massive novel. It's epic in scope, and yet it gets the small details just right with incredible characters. Number 33, Farewell, My Lovely by Raymond Chandler. The classic Philip Marlowe mystery. Really good stuff. This was, I think, the second of the Philip Marlowe novels, and it's really good. Number 32, The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson. It's a science fiction story, but it's also a horror story. This one is just a gripping tale of survival and doom and getting really small. It's fantastic. Number 31, The Iliad by Homer. One of the best stories of war that you'll ever come across. It's excellent. And as old as it is, you can still really connect with the characters in this story. The Iliad, it's great. Number 30, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is just an excellent story about Jake Gatsby. Who is this guy, Jake Gatsby? Find out. Read this great book. Number 29, The Big Book of the Continental Op by Dashiell Hammett. This is all the Continental Op stories, so it's more than one book, really. But this has them all, the whole Continental Op saga. A great saga of detection, hard-boiled stuff. It's great by Dashiell Hammett. It's some of my favorite Dashiell Hammett it's some of my favorites of his work. Number 28, Dune by Frank Herbert. Yeah, it's great. It's Dune. It's the best. Number 27, Bran Mac Morn by Robert E. Howard. His collection of stories, his fantasy historical stories about this Pictish king and the lengths that he will go to keep his people free from the Roman Empire. It's good stuff. Number 26, She by H. Rider Haggard, another brilliant Lost World novel, but this one with She Who Must Be Obeyed. She's terrifying and beautiful and awesome. She. 25, The Gods of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is the second of the Mars novels by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it's great. It's one of the best, if not the best, Mars novel. Number 24, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This, I still think, is the greatest novel ever written. It's not my favorite, but it's up there. I really like this one. Number 23, The History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. A gripping account of the Peloponnesian War. Unlike Herodotus, Thucydides, he lived through this, and he writes with a really realistic eye for these events. It's good stuff. Number 22, The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Wonderful novel, great science fiction novel about a lot of different things, and she succeeds on every level in this book. The Great God Pan is number 21, The Great God Pan and Other Horror Stories by Arthur Machen. Classic horror writer Arthur Machen, who influenced H.P. Lovecraft and so many others. I mean, he's kind of a must-read if you're interested in classic horror. Number 20, Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Beautifully written story of a doomed relationship, and I think it's his best work. Number 19, Pet Sematary by Stephen King. At this point in my life, I still think this is the greatest horror novel that I've ever read. It on every level as a horror novel, it succeeds wonderfully. What a great book. Number 18, Les Mis by Victor Hugo. It's big and it's epic and it's a great story. Really involving story. You really care about the characters. It's great stuff. One of my very favorite books, of course. Number 17, Tarzan of the Apes, Edgar Rice Burroughs. One of his best books, if not his best book. Certainly his best known. It's a lot different from the film versions you might have seen. A lot different and well worth reading. Number 16, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. Probably the perfect science fiction adventure story. Classic stuff. Wonderful novel. Number 15, The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. One of the best hard-boiled novels you will ever read. Great detective novel. It's good stuff. Number 14, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I love this story. It was one of those stories I read very young, and it just like completely took me away and got me really interested in science fiction. Number 13, City by Clifford D. Samack. It's still my favorite science fiction novel. It'll probably remain my favorite science fiction novel. What a great book this is. Number 12, The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. His first Philip Marlowe novel, and in my opinion, his best. It's convoluted, but great. Number 11, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. What more can you say about The Lord of the Rings? It's fantastic. Hold on a minute. Sorry about that. I was interrupted. Right at our top 10, it looks like. So, number 10, Mythology by Edith Hamilton. I have a soft spot for this book. It's one of the first books I read about mythology. It got me interested in mythology, which got me interested in ancient history. And I loved this book. I read this book a lot. Which brings us to number 9, The Count of Monte Cristo. Alexandre Dumas' classic story of revenge. The best revenge novel of all time, and just epic in scope, and it's fantastic. What more can you say about The Count of Monte Cristo? Number 8, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. A wonderful book about so many things. Really moving, more moving than you would think. And of course, no matter what terrible things the monster does, we're on the monster's side in this book. Number 7, A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This book was the first book of its kind that I ever read. I read this pretty young, and it was kind of my gateway into pulp fiction. It's a wonderful book. It's pulpy. It's pulpy stuff, but so what? It's a lot of fun, and it inspired so many different things. Number 6, I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. My very favorite Richard Matheson story. It's incredible. It's so much better than all the movies that they made out of it. Yeah, you should read that book. It's one of the very best books ever. I love it. Number 5, Dracula by Bram Stoker. The ultimate vampire novel. Dracula. First book I ever read, the first adult book that I ever read, and I read it really young. Love it. Dracula. Number 4, The Complete Sherlock Holmes. I do love Sherlock Holmes. He's Sherlock Holmes. Number 3, The Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. I love H.P. Lovecraft, of course. I spent months talking about this guy. I'll probably talk about him again. There's a lot to say about H.P. Lovecraft. One of the most influential horror writers of all time. One of the greatest horror writers of all time. Number 2, Conan by Robert E. Howard. This is Robert E. Howard's masterpiece, the Conan Saga. It has been printed all in one book, the Conan Saga, so let's just consider it one book. And it is incredible. Conan. I talked a lot about Conan before, and I'll talk a lot about Conan again. Number 1, though, my favorite book of all time, remains The Histories by Herodotus. An incredible achievement, The Histories. The first work of history, and as we know it, the first history as we would consider it a history. But it also is so many other things besides, just chock full of information about different cultures, their stories. It is one of the most valuable pieces of writing that exists, The Histories by Herodotus, and it's an incredible read. And Herodotus, his personality really comes through. It's amazing stuff, so there you go. That was my 100 favorite books of all time. Happy New Year, my friends. Thank you if you stuck around for this whole long list. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.